a special Sunday repeated on Wednesday program, and this is
The Mojo Hand. The winning boy's magic.
Marge, this ticket doesn't just give me a seat. It also gives me the right, no, the duty to make a complete ass of myself.
But as for me, I'm off to battle aliens on a faraway planet.
Hello, operator. Give me the number for 911.
Who sent you here? Can't talk, little man? Bet can't play none either.
I could pull a better cartoon out of my ass. Hey, whoa! Wasn't that great, kid?
Oh, bitch.
Kill my boss! Do I dare live out the American dream?
Overload. Pleasure overload.
Uh-oh. 2 independent thought alarms in one day.
Good morning, wood ticks and patriots. Y'all know who you are and what this is all about. Welcome back to another show, the Just Jim Show Live. And I got to make my apologies, which I did last week during the show. I had a little bit of trouble talking last week, but guess what? I was having a stroke. Yeah, you can't keep a good man down. I'm back. Apparently no lasting problems, and we're just glad to be back. You're joining us. We got a lot to talk about this week. Anyway, of course, Sniffin' Joe is back in the news, which he always is. We don't know where Camel Toe is. Somebody hasn't found her yet. Anyway, New York Sniffin' Joe shows up in New York City, calls everybody's climate the climate problems, meaning the hurricane, is everybody's crisis. You can't say that fast enough. Let's not talk about anything else. And, of course, down south in America, we're going to take the statue of Robert E. Lee down and put it in storage. Why would we put it in storage? We're going to take it down and make it go away. Not. Oh, Lordy. You can't make this stuff up. Headline news today. Taliban form an all-male Afghan government of old guard members. There it is, right there. Hey, but they promise to be the new Taliban bond. Yeah. Can you believe that? And here, how efficient is America? Those other stories, they're just headliners that probably not going to hear anywhere else. But here, right there, these two yutzes, these are Al-Qaeda people. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and this other guy, suspected Al-Qaeda terrorist, they're shown in this photo by the FBI in October of 2001 in Washington, D.C. They're now going to go to trial. Can you figure that? Are we fast or what? 20 years later, we're going to send these two bozos to get them into the courtroom. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Not much, but we'll talk about it. I find it hard to believe that that people can sit around in jail somewhere. I think around, hang on, let me go back a page. I think they were sitting in Guantanamo Bay. I think that's where they've been. Former Attorney General Eric Holder decided that the trial should be held in New York, but was met with strong opposition. Can you figure that out? Are these two guys with their no? 10 years later, here we are. And this hot off the press yesterday from the Oneida County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Grady Hartman, they caught the SOB. They caught the SOB. A person of interest was picked up in Carroll Stream, Illinois. Christopher Anderson was arrested for the murder of Hannah Miller, who was just gunned down. It's been a couple of months. When was it? September 7th, he was captured. Sheriff Hartman would like to thank the community for the donations to the reward fund and law enforcement professionals who assisted us in the investigation. That is truly remarkable when something horrific like this happens. And he was down in Illinois, sent his cars to Minnesota. This is the fake out of the century, right? I don't think so. We had the FBI's internal departments at the federal level looking for this yutz. And, innocent until proven guilty. But let's just go down this road a little bit. And in the scheme of things, here's a little story. Came off the AP wire. State Department blocking private rescue flights from leaving Afghanistan. Organizers say blood is on their hands. I said it last week before on the last couple of shows. There are a number of private organizations that have mustered a lot of money, raised a lot of money in their nonprofit organizations, have sent people to Afghanistan on private planes. But because they're not military planes, the State Department is saying, even if you land, you're not taking off. You're not going to take off with citizens, compatriots. We're just not going to allow it. Well, I got to ask the $1 million question. What are they going to do? Shoot them down? They're going to shoot these planes down if they decide to just leave with people? And then I'm going to donate a quarter. We, America, the great ass kissers of 2021, I'll give you a quarter, have said, here's a manifest of all the people that are on these planes. And if you allow us to take this plane out and get this plane off the ground, we can bring these people home. Have you ever heard of such asinine behavior? Why in God's green earth would you hand over, excuse me, not COVID, a flight manifest to your known enemy? You just spent 20 years kicking them around. Well, but wait a minute. That's right. They're the new Taliban bond. They're promising to be reformed, have a better outlook, and obviously we just believe them because they're our friends, they're our new allies. Americans engaged in the rescue of U.S. citizens, SIVs, and green card holders left behind by President Biden, Sniffin' Joe, that is, in Afghanistan, are horrified by what they describe as inexplicable delays from the State Department. That's us. The U.S. State Department is telling you can't take off. They're preventing evacuation flights from leaving the country. Now, why in God's green earth is it that the State Department is going to tell them, no, you can't take off? Wait a minute. We're handing manifests over to the Taliban bond, and then the State Department is going to say, well, we got to wait till they vet our citizens. Rick Clarks, who runs a private rescue group, Plan B, told Fox News, that the State Department is the only thing preventing the flights he's organizing from leaving Afghanistan. Glenn Beck raises $30 million and maybe more, has planes, and they're told by the State Department to clear the airspace. Can't go in, can't get out. He's got places to take them. The Nazarene organization, Nazarene Fund, is apparently his nonprofit. And they pulled, what did he say? I heard somewhere the figure of maybe 7,500 Christians, people, citizens, friends, allies out of Afghanistan. Has 3 countries to take them to so that they're not having to parachute out of a plane. 2 other American individuals separately involved in the evacuation efforts, whom Fox News is not naming to avoid jeopardizing ongoing rescue efforts, similarly said the State Department is the sole entity preventing their charter flights from leaving Afghanistan. Do you have any? Are you awake yet? Are patriots awake? These are the yutzes in D.C., the village idiots. I call them village idiots and court jesters that sit out there in D.C. You know, we'd be better off with, I've said this for a decade, we'd be better off with soccer moms out in Washington, D.C. We'd at least get our snacks on time. You know? Yeah, let me hear it for that soccer mom election. We need to get some soccer moms out there. They know what's going on. You'll have healthy food, snacks, fruits, lots of water. Keep hydrated. This is a zero place to be negotiating with American lives. And why I said on the last show, I think, I named the countries where these old leaders were kept, and then they're sitting at a negotiating table on the sidelines with the same people you threw in jail. They're now back in power. Of course, we just ran away, left them all the guns and ammo they want, and Humvees and airplanes. Of course, State Department now took that down off their website, too. If one, quote unquote, if one life is lost as a result of this, the blood is on the White House hands. You betcha. Whether Camel Toe is hanging around or not, they can't find her, apparently. Obviously, she's being groomed. Some people I know that are very, they're conservative, but very reserved conservatives, have said they're starting to wake up and talk like maybe the administration doesn't know what the heck they're doing. And their suggestion is that she's being held off in the sidelines, not in the bunker. She ain't here, I'll tell you that. Being groomed for what it is that they want to do with her. That would be the men behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain that is pulling the strings right now. Same people who are denying airplanes to take off with our allies and friends. I talked about that last week. You run a flight in every 45 minutes or an hour, and you're pulling 70 people out at a time. I mean, that's a good thing. If they got to leave, they all got to leave. But you've had these huge transport planes, and you get 70 people on them, and off they go. That's not what the press release showed a picture of. Press release showed a picture of people sitting down on the plane being emptied, people sitting on the floor, crouching or whatever they're doing, smoking their happy pipe. I don't know. And, excuse me, it looked like 500 people in there. I don't know. And then you tell other private planes that they cannot take off, get citizens. You don't have the ability to vet them. The individual suggests that the State Department's obstruction is motivated in part by embarrassment that private individuals, we the people, are rescuing Americans whom the U.S. government left behind. Well, then there's no hostage situation. They're free to leave if they want. Wait a minute, you just hand the Taliban a flight manifest with lists of names of people who are on the plane that should be okay to leave, and then disregard the observed behavior of the same group of people, beating women, chasing them down, knocking on doors, on people's home doors, trying to find, locate, and kill our allies. Translator. You heard this story. It's old news, but it's still worth mentioning. When JB, sniffing Joe Biden, was over there on his tour with another senator, this is back when he was a senator, chopper got disabled for whatever reason. I don't know if it crashed or whatever. But the same interpreter that is now begging to get released and helped to get out of the country was the guy who got Joe Biden and the other senator out of harm's way. And we leave these guys behind. If you hand a manifest over and the person turns in their legitimate papers as a connection to the United States, do you think these papers are going to stay around till tomorrow when the plane takes off? I don't think so. I almost guarantee you no. Sorry, I keep looking around. I keep an eye on my audio. The last couple of weeks has been shutting off. Anyway, I don't know how in God's green earth this process, and don't get me wrong, pretty much every conservative, every patriot that's got anything to do in the public eye is not bitching and talking about getting people out. They're talking about the way that this whole thing has gone down, the process. You know, I tell you, patriots, you go out and sight your deer gun in. You know how to go deer hunting. You go sight your gun in once a year. So you go to a range, and there's what's called standard operating procedures. There's a line person who controls the shooting line, and you have to follow the rules. You get kicked out. I guess the word would be get kicked out. Does that mean that we can't kick Sniffin' Joe out, or any of the other people wandering around, the village idiots wandering around behind the curtain, pulling the strings? Those seeking clearance to land in Qatar, that's where the secret negotiations were being held with these Taliban bonds that are now taking pictures sitting at a desk running the country, supposedly. No, and that's not a supposed. That took place. We're informed by military channels that they must first go through the State Department to gain approval. An email reviewed by Fox News shows. Clay has a manifest of 4,500 names of U.S. citizens, green card holders, SIVs, and refugees trying to get stateside. Well, out of the country for sure. So far, they've given the State Department 800 names for a first round of flights. For a first round of flights, 800 out of 4,500 people. Is there any doubt in your mind where the efficiency is within your government, my government? Fox News has reviewed that manifest, which confirms Clay's account. So this is somehow getting brought out to the public eye. But have you heard a news station talk about this? Not on your life. Not going to happen. Oh, everybody's out. There's no hostages over there. There's nobody left, but we don't leave people behind. Poppycock. Yep. It's important that we get into Doha, where there are other refugees centers. Plan B said. That's all these private enterprise people. People who get up off their couch and actually go do something to help other Americans, their brothers, their sisters, others. You know, you got to also have to wonder, are there more citizens who are ex-military left there? Clay told Fox News that his organization is having problems getting permissions from the Biden State Department to land on a return flight from Afghanistan in a neighboring country. Wait a minute. If I leave Afghanistan on a plane, off I go, and I want to land in Qatar, do I need to have the White House State Department's permission to land in Qatar? Who's running Qatar? Are we? Are Americans running Qatar? They have their own government. Wouldn't you just need the permission of their government, Qatar government, to land? That would be on my playbook. After making little to no progress with the State Department, Clay's group turned to senators from both parties. Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, and Ron Johnson for the great state of Wisconsin. It's not been so great lately. All have sought to help Plan B and other organizations to secure the approval they need to get the evacuees safely out of Afghanistan. Organizers and state staffers told Fox News. This Fox News story. Meanwhile, the Taliban fighters are reportedly carrying out executions against those who helped the American troops during the conflict. I will not say war, because we haven't declared war. It has been a military conflict, an action. Clay shared some of the messages that he's received from a family on the Plan B manifest list that he's been in contact with. Please, quote unquote, please save us as soon as possible. My family and I are facing a lot of problems. My children's health is deteriorating day by day due to many worries. Quote, on the other hand, there are reports that the Taliban have recruited people in the Ministry of Technology and Communications to find people who will cooperate with U.S. forces. The anonymous person said, if they find out anything about me, they will kill me and my family. Johnson told Fox News in a statement that it's hard to believe that in the U.S. government that they would deny American citizens and Afghan allies who helped America the ability to leave Afghanistan. It's interesting that picture is on the cover of this story. What exactly has she done? She went to the border. Well, no, wait. Was it close? She was close to the border. I suppose Washington, D.C. is close to the border. She disappears. Can't handle her job assignments. Did nothing. And with that thought in mind, now these are human beings we're talking about. And hang on a second here. And on the heels of that story of human beings, we have a story about animals, dogs specifically, not COVID, that were trained bomb sniffers, drug sniffers. And I have video. I do not have it available at this moment on this system. I have a video that shows the condition at the airport in Afghanistan where dogs, cages, and water bowls and empty water bottles, empty plastic water bottles are all over the place in this hangar, along with a helicopter. This, if you know anything about how the Taliban views the world, you'll know that animals don't have a whole holy place in their life. Quote unquote, death sentence. Animal rights group goes after Biden administration for allegedly leaving service dogs behind. And at the White House, Jen Psaki is saying, "Oh, that's untrue, false statements. You post this on social media, the fact checkers will come and get you." Not true, but it is true. An animal rights group released a statement Monday, a couple days ago, condemning the government for allegedly delivering a death sentence to contract working dogs left in Afghanistan after a complete withdrawal of U.S. troops. The last U.S. flight flew out of Kabul, Afghanistan, which concluded a 20-year-long military presence. Finally, they've got the terminology correct. What a war. Though we do decorate our veterans as war in conflicts. 20-year-long military presence of the U.S. in the country, Commander of the United States Central Command General Kenneth McKenzie said Monday. These brave dogs do some dangerous, life-saving work as our military working dogs and deserve a far better fate than the one to which they have been condemned. Now, and I do have problems with some of the humane groups, humane society type groups, animal rights groups. But in this case, specifically in this case, it is absolutely ludicrous, excuse me, that we would leave these munchkins behind. I do not get it. We stand ready to, quoting, we stand ready to bring them home. That's coming from the animal rights groups. And rightfully so. These dogs were attached to a human being that is now no longer there. Is there food, water? Who's taking care of grooming, doing whatever? Taking care of vet problems? We all have those kinds of things. You see pictures of a dog leaned up against a working service person, licking their face. And there's a bond there that I don't know. As a military person, there's a difference between a human being and a military person because you got heartstrings. How that trainer and handler can let that dog go. Obviously, they were separated somewhere along the line. Maybe it's where they stay or live, and I just find it hard to believe that this is what America's makeup is all about. Truly is. And when people get aware of this, they get the same jaw-dropping reaction. What? You just said what? It sickens us to sit idly by and watch these brave dogs who valiantly served our country be put to death or worse. In order to prevent this tragedy from occurring, these canines should be loaded into whatever cargo space remains and flown safely out of Afghanistan. I'm right with you there. Hell, with the flying schedule that the military planes had, you could have put one more flight in and put all the animals in there. Had an ark, as it were. American Humane demanded action from Congress to classify contract working dogs as on the same level as military working dogs. And there's a distinct difference between a contract working dog and a military dog. I get that. I get that wholeheartedly. Oop, wrong one. Hit the wrong button. Anyway, warning that a failure to do so could become a condemnation of us all. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with that. We are so skewed, out of whack. But now, let's hold the presses. Hold on. There's more news coming out that you probably will not hear about. And we're going to shift gears and get off the Afghanistan thing. But we won't, because the the Afghan refugees. Okay. I don't know. You're gonna hate me for saying this, but there once again we're gonna go to the process by which all this mess is happening. And where I don't have that article, or maybe I do. No, I don't. To be vetted or have your name be on a manifest means that you should have some access to the United States or a controlling portion of some other country, an embassy, whatever it might be, to get out and remove your body from harm's way. That would be my estimation of what a refugee would be. Somebody that their homeland doesn't want anymore. And our country, America, has been built on that. We'll take you're unloved, you're unwanted, and give them a place to hang out. It's worked for how many centuries? Decades. And now, in the hurry-scurry of this evacuation, I will guarantee you that the vetting process, while some may say they're doing the best they can with what they have, I'm going to bet that it's not up to par. And listen to myself. There we go. Anyway, I'm going to bet that it just isn't adequate enough. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, out of the Citizen Journal, out of Ventura County, and I'll give you a little peace of mind where that is. Here's an article that says, I'll let the camera do the work. Red Cross issues warning to stop blood plasma donations from vaccinated people. People got the poke. Now, again, I'm not saying right or wrong, but now you have some new science. Oh, wait, is that science? Is that what we're following? Is science? Or are we following the general Fujiyama? And this was September 3rd, just the other day. I'm going to quote, one of the Red Cross requirements for plasma from routine blood and platelet donations that test positive for high levels of antibodies to be used as a convalescent plasma is that it must be from a donor that has not received a COVID-19 vaccination. You hear that? Did you hear that? That it must not be from a donor Scientifically speaking, it is critical for those receiving donor blood to have sufficient antibodies directly related to their own immune systems. Tainted blood from vaccinated people does not qualify. This is to ensure that antibodies collected from donors have sufficient antibodies directly related to their immune response to a COVID-19 infection and not just the vaccine, as antibodies from an infection and antibodies from a vaccine are not the same. That would be, as General Fujiyama would say, is not gain of function that we paid for. An FOIA came out, got released. The reply to the FOIA, that is Freedom of Information Act request, that we spent, the American government, us, spent $40 million plus to fund agencies that were working on the CV variant to make it be a gainful process or virus. And don't believe it? You don't believe it. But I'm going to tell you, I do believe it. I have yet to see the FOIA. There were 900 and some odd pages, 920, 930, something like that, excuse me, that were returned based on the FOIA. And I'm wondering, out of all the 900 pages plus, how many have been redacted? So now the Red Cross is telling you if you got vaccinated, don't bother. Don't bother. I find this to be just hilarious. And did you know? I gotta find my graphic. Did you know? Oh my God. Did you know? Let me get back to the other camera. You see that? Anybody watching, not listening to the podcast? It's a mask. Did you know? Squeezing a line of ketchup around the edges of your mask helps form a better seal and prevents micro droplets of saliva from coming around the edges of the mask. Hey, I saw it on the internet. It's got to be true. Oh, God. And with that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'll be back in a short. I got to turn the microphone on. Welcome back, Wood Ticks and Patriots. All you village idiots. I made a post, I think, yesterday with it. We're starting a lawsuit against some major corporations and had nothing but great response. If you have something that you'd like to tell me, right here on the bottom, where are we? Right there, right on the bottom there. News at the JustJimShow.com. Please send it in. If you got the cojones, I'll investigate it. Somebody will take a look at it. We'll talk about it. Give you the pros, the cons, whatever it is. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Well, some of my camera stuff's not working here today. We do have merchandise. You got to like and subscribe to this show. You're listening to it. Bring it on. Make sure you show some love. That special shirt down there. What part of no don't you understand? It's one of my exclusive shirts here. Feel free to wear it. You got to wear a face mask. Hey, let's push the Just Jim show. We'll tell you stuff nobody else is going to talk about. Absolutely not. And with that, oopsie, wrong one. There. You gotta go. Here it goes. My software is screwing up. Right there. Up there in the corner. Scan it for merchandise. You'll have it in a couple of days. Direct ship, drop ship. And if you mention Just Jim, you get 10% off. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Got a promo going on for fall. Just mention Just Jim, get 10% off your order. Anyway, let's get back to the show. There's some stuff I constantly talk about: parental involvement, what it's going to take to pull ourselves up and out of this thing. And it's not going to be a quick hit the enter button and it'll stop, because it won't. Everybody that I know of is got their face mired in the midterm elections. And I don't believe that that's the answer to the problem. Yeah, America has a problem. Right? And if you don't know that, go back to bed. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody just lost their federal funding. They're talking about, in the unemployment world, they're talking about putting it back in place. But my take on this whole thing is real close to my comment before about electing soccer moms to getting clean in DCL, because it's a swamp. And I'm not the first person to say it. I will continue to say it, though. Where's the GOP? There's only a very few number of people who are actually fighting very hard to bring about the truth and or the consequences to that truth. You have Rand Paul sitting in a judiciary committee talking to Dr. Fukuyama, whatever. I have trouble with names, so excuse me. Who's sitting there barefaced lying when presented with the facts, documents that say we've been spending money, $40 million to fund lab research in Wuhan lab. I don't know if that's how asinine can it be? Now, here's a story that goes hand in hand with what's been called, there's a group out there in social media trying to muster up support. What does that say? Should public schools be allowed to deceive parents? Now, this is on a specific thing, gender identity. And I've been talking about CRT, critical race theory, being taught in schools. This falls hand in hand. I probably 10 years ago, one of my shows, I talked about the public health system that's in place in our school systems. Back then, there was only one thing I found out about, and that had to do with birth control, that a public school nurse and public health department could give your daughter, my daughter, birth control pills, and I as a parent and you as a parent would never know, would never be told that your child and my child was getting anything that you didn't want them to have, may not want them to have. There are many people who say, no big deal. They're going to do it anyway. Might as well give it to them. Guess what? If you notice half the stuff that's going on in America today, it's parents, people being parents at school board meetings. I am constantly surprised at how well-versed many of these people are, including doctors who come out and, let's follow the science, quote unquote, with as far as the vaccinations go. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You want to get the poke? Go get the poke. Rock on. It's called freedom, individual freedoms. You don't want to get the poke? Don't go get the poke. It's okay. And this whole lay the guilt trip on you. Now, this falls right in line with that mentality. So if you don't agree with it, go eat some marshmallows or lick your multicolored lollipop. I don't care. But this article and conversation is not for you. I'll guarantee you that parents who parent are going to run into you at the next school board meeting. Should parents not know what's going on with their child's self-identity? According to this, their school systems, school boards have made little rules and regulations, whereas they don't have to tell you anything. And they run not one, but two sets of documents inside the school system. Little Sally really wants to be little Bobby, Robert, as it were. And they don't have to tell you about it. A child's new chosen name and gender identity, parentheses, quote unquote, trans, agender, non-binary, etc., for all internal communications with the child. So you send Sally to school, but the school system now has a document that says, wait a minute, Sally identifies as Jimmy. So from now on, all you teachers have to refer to this entity as Jimmy. So now, consider, if you will, that you go to a parent-teacher conference and the teacher starts talking about Jimmy, and you're sitting there. And you're thinking, what the hell is this person talking about? Who the hell is Jimmy? It's not my child. Would be a slip by the teacher. The school also provided the girls a year's worth of counseling in support of her new identity, which in her case was, quote unquote, no gender. Even the PE, physical ed teacher, were in on it. But her parents were left in the dark. This duplicity is part of the plan, quote unquote. All documents sent home to mom and dad scrupulously maintained the daughter's birth name and sex. But mom noticed her daughter seemed to be suffering. Although far from alone in declaring a new identity, many girls in school had adopted new names and gender pronouns. This girl's grades fell apart. She became moody. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, how can that be? She has no identity. When the mother failed to uncover the source of the girl's distress, she met with teachers, hoping for insight. Instead, she slammed into a wall of silence. I'm going to remember that. No teacher was evidently willing to let worried mom know what the hell was going on. Finally, one did. Have you ever, let's assume you guys are parenting, you're good parents, you go and get involved in school activities, you talk to your children's teachers, principals, whomever, gym teacher, music teacher, and you ask a question, and it's, oh, never mind, we're taking care of that. That's a reply. You've got it. Guess what? They're in the middle of something. You need to look at it. When I wrote a book called Irreversible Damage, I documented that California and other public school systems had adopted a policy of creating two sets of documents around a minor student's gender. Similar policies have cropped up across the country, modeled on the one created by the activist organization Gender Spectrum. Beware if you hear that term in your local school district, gender spectrum. A gender support plan isn't merely a secret held between child and teacher, which might be bad enough. This is a no private student confession. the silent whisperings of a troubled teenage heart. A gender support plan, or any similar scheme, affects a school-wide conspiracy to create a new secret name and gender identity specifically withheld from parents. Well, then, if you don't have any control or knowledge of what's going on with your child, you're not a parent. I've said that for I don't care how long. Group I read it occasionally on social media. No left turn in education. Y'all guess what that's about. And it's funny. It has to do with what's being taught to the students. I've talked to a mom whose middle school daughter slept in the boys' bunk on the school overnight before she learned her daughter's school had, for more than a year, called her by a different name and openly referred to her as a boy. Not COVID. Teachers and activists who support this policy typically make two arrangements in its favor. The first is the very fact that a teen would want to keep her new gender identity a secret. Listen to this. To keep her gender identity a secret from parents is proof that home is an unsafe place for her. That is, her parents, if they knew, would abuse her, quote unquote. Quote unquote. That her parents would abuse her. It's an unsafe house. Oh, wait a minute. We get Child Protective Agency coming in. Yeah, we're going to look at the house. Go look at the people in the house. Go look in the refrigerator. But, and this isn't done yet, but I'm running low on time. And I'm going to tell you, this article is so hit the nail on the head. You people need to get to your school board meetings. You need to listen very carefully to the language that they use when questioned, because they have their little rhetoric all prepared, ready to tell you, a parent, you don't need to know that without saying that. They'll have dual sets of papers. What happens to it? I'm going to ask $1.5 million question. If you're a truck driver and you keep 2 sets of books in your truck, what happens to you when the second set of books, your driving hours, gets found? Your ass is on the side of the road. You might even lose your CDL. Oh, yes. And on it goes. I will come up with another one, and I will take this. God, you really do need to wake up, track down some of these articles. And I'm going to tell you why. And this relates back to the refugee group of people who are being brought into the United States of America by this administration and the lackeys thereof. I got a frantic call from a mom who just found out, lived down around the Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, in that general area, that it's a 2-part story, that all of these kids are now being enrolled, pushed into the public school system. They don't know the English language, or very little. They have been generationally indoctrinated into the women aren't worth anything. You can hit a woman. You can beat a woman. You can stone a woman. Remember, this is generational. And now these people have been flown from their sandcastles to a military base, supposedly vetted, supposedly screened for COVID, and now being simply just offered, if this vaccine is so good, you poke them. You get them in as part of coming into America. You poke them. If it's that good, remember that now. We're going to follow the science. But you can't change what's been up here if you're taught. Here, see this pen? You and I both know it's green. But for the first 9 years of your life, you're told it's black. So you are going to swear. You're going to think I'm nuts for calling this green. But for generations, this has been called black. This is what's going on in the minds of the young, the formidable years. They've been taught women shut up, wear burqas, they don't say anything, they're not worth anything. And as I said earlier, the Taliban ban is now installed in all male government. But the way they promised they were going to bring women in to government. It'd going to be a new Taliban ban. I don't think so. And now you have 8,000 plus people staying over at Camp McCoy, and they're being shoved out the door because you've got to indoctrinate them into the public school system. We'll give them an education, boys and girls. And the boys are going to be in the same classes as somebody I hold near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to tell you, not much different than the teacher who taped on a mask to a student's face. You're going to find somebody who is going to be livid if one of them little sand jockeys decides that somebody in my family, my great-great-granddaughter, my granddaughter, isn't worth anything and hits because her opinion is not worth it. Doesn't matter. I'm a male. That's what counts. That's multi-generational. You can't sidestep it, and you ain't going to change it in the first 30 days. But by God, we're going to put these kids in school. And you want to talk about a left turn in education? Where's the teaching acceleration happening for those? I feel very sorry for gifted children in the learning department because they're now going to come to a screeching halt within a certain grade level class because they have to spend time to teach certain things to a certain group of people. Ultimately, they should be in a class by themselves, wherever they are. Bring teachers in, teach them the basics, English, remedial education. Should not be tossed into the general population. They'll be the bleeding heart liberal sons of bitches. There's a quarter. Who will crawl right up my you-know-what and tell me I'm anti-American. No, I'm not. I'm very pro-American. They do not need to be brought into public education the way they're bringing them in. And I'm going to say this, that also in that 8,000 plus new groupings sitting down in Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, I've talked to a number of small business people who are in the entertainment business, food and libation. They are, they're already concerned because it's happening. Guess what's not being delivered to their establishment, to their business? They can't get supplies, food supplies, because guess where it's going? It's going to Camp McCoy. It's not going to a local businessman or woman who needs to support their local community. Are you getting this, anybody? Anybody getting this? Anybody awoke? Are you crazy? The supply chain basically now is being re-diverted to Camp McCoy to feed these 8,000 plus people and our military personnel, doctors. I'm sure there's a bunch of lawyers down there. They're all getting lunch. But America just came off a free lunch program, didn't we? That's right. Screw the small business person. Screw the restaurants. We don't need to have hamburgers here for the local people. No prime rib. Can't get the basic. Last month, I made a comment about, you want to piss Wisconsin people off? Take our beer away from us. Here, hold my beer while I do this. You couldn't get bottled beer. You talk to one of your local establishments. Find out how much bottled beer they didn't get in the last couple of months. I'm speechless almost. But I'm going to tell you that your local businesses are going to be shorted on their orders, so don't expect to see. I bet you menus will shrink. Liquor, beer offerings are going to shrink because they can't get the product, because resources are being spent to send shit down to Camp McCoy to house the people who are being offered a COVID vaccine, whose kids are going to be shoved into your school system and bring their mentality of generations, it's the way it is, into our classrooms. And the school boards and the school teachers are falling right in. They're stumbling over their own feet. Can't wait to have this happen. I'm sorry. I'm just not on board with this one. Not at all. And with that, I got 9:01. I went a little long today, but I'm telling you, there's so much to talk about. And I'm happy to do it. Make sure you send me an email. Keep the cards and letters coming, folks. We'll find stuff out that nobody else is going to want to talk about. And with that, God bless. I'll bid you adieu till the next show. In the meantime, I got to see my doctors. They're telling me to slow down. Right, that's going to happen. But I'm with that in mind, I will say, don't forget, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to the Just Jim Show, where we're all about patriotism, conservatism, and ultimately being good to each other in the proper process. With that, I'll play the video, close out, and we'll see you next time on the Just Jim Show. Say good morning, good ticks and patriots.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a defender. So God made a patriot. God said, I need somebody willing to sacrifice everything, his fortune, his sacred honor, even his life, for liberty and something called inalienable rights that he cannot see but knows he cannot live without. So God made a patriot. God said, I need somebody willing to ride a horse through sleepy towns in the dark of night, sounding the alarm, entreating neighbors to take up arms against an overwhelming force of wicked tyranny. So God made a patriot. God said, I need someone who, even after crushing defeats, rises up and stands tall. Someone who hears the clarion call that these are the times that try men's souls and does not shrink from the trial. Someone who will cross a frozen river in the dead of winter, when all logic and reason says turn back, abandon hope. So God made a patriot. Then God said, I need a man who knows of the rise and fall of great nations, who knows of human nature and the corrupting influence of power and the fragility of liberty. I need this man, along with his like-minded brethren, to write an enduring constitution. So God made a patriot. God said, I need a person, one person, who's willing to do whatever it takes, even write a book to confront injustice and spark a movement that would tear apart a people so that chains will rightfully be shattered and a blessed union eventually emerge. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who, with the love of family and for the love of country, will cross a vast ocean and storm a heavily fortified beach. And, if he survives, charge through 200 yards of bullets and blood across that merciless beach. And if he survives, scale the towering cliffs. And if he survives, begin the long march to free a continent. And if he survives, return home and, with the same resolute determination, rebuild a nation, and someday be called the greatest generation. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who will, without thought of self, invest in schools and scouts and church and community, so that the proposition that all men are created equal remains a beacon to enlighten the world, and that such a beacon shall not perish from the earth. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who will have the courage to not give up her seat on a bus and thus force a nation to confront its deepest divisions and heal the wounds and pursue the dream that inspires all hearts. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone strong enough to stand against any enemy, foreign or domestic, that would try to steal the freedom so dearly defended, the rights so righteously upheld, yet gentle enough to help a small child carry a star-spangled flag in a hometown parade. So God made a patriot. Then God said, I need a man who will speak the truth to his own leaders, that in order to preserve our great nation, we will not sacrifice the well-being of future generations for the sake of our own. Someone who will tirelessly toil day upon night, no matter the setback, no thought of surrender. Someone who will prayerfully rise every morning to climb the wall as a defender, duly endowed with the honored gift of generations before, while offering a solemn promise to generations ahead. A defender who will ensure that the way of truth and the torch of liberty remain forever lit in this shining city on a hill. So God made a patriot.